Hi, this is John Martin. Welcome to the second trend number 2, rising age wave. Another name for this is age shift. And again, we have 10 different trends. We're going to go deep now into this one, a demographic certainty that's going to wash over our country and affect your transit system. The rising age wave. Well, when you look at demographics, oftentimes they will point to where we're headed. If you look at just the past couple of years or decade, that's exactly the situation when it comes to the age wave or the age shift. When you look over time, back to 2000, some 20 years ago, and then to 2010 and 2020, you see that the percent makeup of seniors, people 65 plus in our population, has continued to grow. And when we project it out to 2030, across America, it's projected to grow to 20%. So 20% of our population is going to be 65 plus. Well, how is this possible? Well, think about Florida right now. Florida is 20% plus senior today. Florida is really what we're going to be looking like in 2030 across the rest of the country. And by the way, Florida's going to 30% senior by 2030. But the reason behind this is really some trends that are affecting the population pyramid. Ever since the dawn of man, we've always had more younger people alive than older people. It's always been this way. And in fact, demographers call it the population pyramid. Well, this population pyramid is fundamentally changing shapes because of the population shift. Two factors have conspired to change the shape of the population pyramid. The first is how long we're living. Over the last 100 years, we've added almost 40 years to our life expectancy. And that's been brought on by the profound improvements and innovations and inventions in healthcare. We just are taking better care of ourselves, and through intervention, we're having the needed operations to keep us going. And so consequently, we're just living longer and longer and longer. And so here we are now at the average age of 77 in terms of when people pass away. That took a little bit of hit during COVID, but now it's back. But the big increase is what you have to look at in terms of increasing our life expectancy. Another conspiring force is the shifting birth rate. And look at this over time. This chart shows the number of children per woman in the birthing years. And so look at it back during that Great Depression. And now I'm going back 100 years, but when we had unemployment at some 30%, people didn't feel like making babies. So we got down to 2.2 children per woman in the birthing years. That was the birth rate. And then we had this baby boom. After World War II, the GIs came home, everybody got happy, and as a consequence, we started having a lot of babies. So 3.7 babies per woman in the birthing years, almost 4 kids per family. Today, most families, most young families, just have 2 kids in their family. That's because our birth rate since the 1950s and 60s and 70s has slid down to 2.0 during that Great Recession. From there on through COVID, it has dropped to a low of 1.64%. Now it's taken a slight uptick in the last couple of years to 1.7, but nothing compared to what it was like at the height of the baby boom when baby boomers were born. That is a profound shift, and it's going to have all kinds of implications. We're going to have relatively fewer younger people in our society and relatively more older people. And that is a demographic fact. And it's not going to change anytime soon. When you think about this birth rate and how low it is, it looks like it's sort of set down there under 2.0. Well, when you look at the US Census, as they project out the population of 65 plus, every year until 2060, they are projecting an increase in the number of seniors in America. Why just to 2060? Well, that's how far they do their projections. It's actually probably going to continue past then, because I don't think we're going to stop living as long as we are. In fact, we probably will start living longer with even more breakthroughs in healthcare and medicine. But it's that birth rate that is at that point of under 2.0. That's got to fundamentally shift if we're going to see a shift in our age wave in our model. But here's the interesting thing for rural transit. When you look at where there're going to be a greater preponderance of older people in the society, looking out into the future towards 2040, it's the rural areas that are going to get relatively older compared to the metro areas. Not by too much, but clearly you can see it's projected out by 2040, 26% of the population in the rural areas will be senior and 22% of the population in metro areas. But it's just something to think about in terms of your services. As we do research for transit companies across America and in rural areas as well as urban areas, we always look at the number of services that are provided. And it's easy to do this shopping. You can go online, or you can call around and just try to understand all the different things, all the different services that are available in your local market or your territory. And you look at those and you think, oh, we've got it covered. But I tell you, our experience in market by market is that while these may be advertised, we still don't have enough services to really help the growing number of seniors. And so I would invite you to do that exercise to see in your local aging service, in your area, are your local aging services providers really there? Do you really have a robust service? And are you going to have a robust service as this market starts to grow in the future? Another thing to think about is really your workforce. We are operating in a time where unemployment is at a historic low, under 3% in some areas and just over 3% in others. But because of this age shift, we're going to have a continued war for talent. There is just going to be a lot of jobs that are open that are harder to fill. And so when we look at who was going to take these jobs, when we look at demography and we look at the shifting population pyramid to a population rectangle, what we see is that it's going to be a continued relative shortage of younger workers and a greater abundance of older workers. And let me explain this with some statistics. When you look back a decade ago and you look at the labor force participation, about half of America works. So 153 million Americans working. And look at the preponderance of that workforce. It's the 25 to 54 group in that blue bar. And you look at the bottom, the 16 to 24-year-olds, and it's about 20%. And then the 55-year-olds and older, 30%. But now look out to where we are roughly today, 2021, and you can see that the growth has really been in the older workforce, that it's been pretty much flat with the 25 to 54, and actually it has shrunk a little bit in terms of the 16 to 24. And when you go out into the future, this comes even more pronounced. The real growth in the workforce is going to come with the 55 plus worker. And in fact, the younger workers, there's going to be a decrease in that number. And so that's why we call it the war for workers. And what I want you to do as you run your tribal and rural transit systems, I want you just to think about where your future workers are going to come from, and just keep an open mind that it's going to come from all different types of ages and age groups. And in fact, that more senior age group, the 55 plus, might be even a bigger market for your future employment base. So the implication for tribal and rural transit is to ride the age wave, understand it, understand what it means for your territory or your region, and then incorporate it into your strategic plan. And the advice we have for you is to just don't go at it alone. When you think about people that are 55 plus, it's a time when you might need a little additional help. And there are a lot of services that are designed to help older people in our society. And there's services that are not only for transportation, but for healthcare and for companionship and and even services that come into your home. Try to coordinate all of these services that are available. And that's what I would encourage you to think about. How do you package transit as part of that whole bundle? How are you part of a solution set where different groups with different services are trying to help older people, that they can also put your service in that bundle? And that's what we see with Real Inc. In Alice, Texas. They really have bundled their transit services for the senior population as part of an overall package of services that are being offered in their region. So think that way, and start right now by pulling out that trend sheet that we have for you and look at the second trend on riding the age wave, and look at a few of the provocative questions we have for you and discuss as a group, how are you approaching this opportunity? Not only in serving your customers better, but also in terms of your employment base. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.